Hello, and welcome to the How to Work with Beta Readers seminar. So glad you can join us today at BookFest. So my name is Brandie June, and we're going to go over in kind of a broad view some of the things to look for when you are talking with beta readers, where to find them, why to use them, and some questions to ask them and so forth. So, all right, let's get started. All right. So as I mentioned, my name is Brandie June. I am the YA fantasy author of Gold Spun and Curse Undone, a Rumpelstiltskin retelling duology, as well as I have an upcoming novel, which is Magic at the Grand Dragonfly Theatre, which comes out this fall. So all three of these books are traditionally published, and for all three of them, I used beta readers. I also am actually working with beta readers right now on a new manuscript I'm working on, and will likely continue to always work with beta readers. I think they are just a really excellent tool in your writing. All right, so you've written a manuscript. Congratulations. Take a moment, pat yourself on the back. And what I suggest at this point is don't immediately jump to beta readers as soon as your first draft's done. What you're going to want to do is spend as much time as you can doing edits that you can do on your own. So polish it up basically to the point where you think the manuscript is at the best place possible. You don't want to send a beta reader a first draft you haven't even reread. You want to you want to maximize the input that they're going to give you. So in order to do that, you want to give them at least the best polished version of your work. So I would say spend some time editing your manuscript. Once you're like, this is as great as I can do on my own, then it's a great time to start looking for beta readers. All right, so why even use beta readers? One, it gives you fresh eyes. So you've probably been spending months or even years working on this manuscript. So that means you're going to be really, really close to the text. You're really very involved in it. You know everything. You've seen it probably several hundred times. At least I know I have by the time I finished editing my books. And so sometimes it's hard to take that step back to get kind of that wider view. And really, you're never going to be able to get a first impression of your book. You're too close to it. So one of the great things about beta readers is they can give you a first impression of your book. They can tell you what it was like to read your book for the first time. Because generally speaking, readers are going to be reading your book for the first time. So they help give you kind of that new set of eyes, and maybe they thought of some things that you haven't thought of, or that you've been so close to the text you haven't been able to tell. Another thing that I love about beta readers is if I think something's funny in my manuscript, maybe by the 14th time that I've reread a scene, it doesn't feel as funny and fresh anymore to me, but it might feel that way to someone who's reading it for the first time. Same point, something where I've already worked out a certain problem in my head. I know how it should flow. Beta readers can tell me if that's actually how it worked for them, or maybe it didn't. Another thing with beta readers that I really like is having multiple insights. So I suggest working with a couple of different beta readers, not a bunch. You don't want to reach out to 50 beta readers. But if you have a couple, that's often helpful because books are subjective. So beta readers are going to give you their opinions. And I generally like to listen to all the opinions, but I won't necessarily make a change if it's just one person's opinion. I'll give it some weight. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll make a change. Maybe I won't. But say you have 3 people who all come back to you with the same problem, then that adds some extra weight for me as maybe, oh, okay, maybe this scene really wasn't this clear if multiple people don't understand what's going on. So beta readers are really excellent for that as well. And that's another reason I like to reach out to a couple different beta readers to kind of get, and then kind of combine all the feedback together and weight it accordingly. All right, so let's talk about some places to find beta readers. I highly recommend reaching out to critique groups. I highly recommend being part of critique groups. And with the, post-digital age, a lot of critique groups can be either in person or online. A nice thing with critique groups is usually there can be a back and forth. So you can partner with someone and you will beta read for them. They will be beta read for you, which one gives you a beta reader, which is great. And two, the act of beta reading for someone else and critiquing other people's work, providing constructive feedback also makes you a better writer. I know as I worked with more and more critique groups, I also began to read more critically, which made me write more critically. So it's not just about getting your one book, getting feedback on that, but also giving feedback is going to make you a better writer. And as you work with these critique groups, you can also build your writing community, build your writing network, which I also always highly recommend authors to do. And there are a lot of different genre groups, RWA Writers, Romance Writers of America, SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writer and Illustrators, MWA is the Mystery Writers Association. Really, there's a ton of different genres of national writing groups, and a lot of them have local chapters that may have critique groups. Your critique group can also be something really informal. I personally have some writers, friends of mine, who we all just get together once a week at a mall food court and we do some writing. And so that's some place that I've actually found a lot of my really great beta readers. Some other places is, fellow readers. You want your beta readers to be readers and interested in your genre. You don't want a beta reader who hates your genre. So, for example, if you write horror, you don't want your beta reader to be someone who absolutely hates horror. They're not going to give you great feedback if that's the case. So, think about your social media groups. Are you part of any groups for specific genres that you really love? Oftentimes the stuff you love to read is the stuff you love to write. So online groups are one way to do it. Book events. I personally go to various book signings for authors whose genre I also write in, whose books I enjoy. And in that case, making friends with some of the other readers at those events, can be your future beta readers. And if nothing else, also it's building up that writing community. So those are some places to find beta readers. Okay, now what to ask beta readers? You're going to want to ask them big picture questions. For example, how was the plot pacing? Were there places the story dragged, or were there places you just couldn't put it down? What about the character relationships? Were the characters compelling? Were they believable? Did you believe the relationship between two characters? You're not going to want to be asking granular questions. You don't want to treat your beta readers like an editor, because they are not your editor. They're your beta readers. So basically think big picture questions, structural questions, plot, character relationship, pacing. Those are the kind of questions you want to ask them. I've also listed here Jamie Gould's beta reader worksheet. And this is a great questionnaire worksheet that I send to a lot of my beta readers. And I let them know you can answer some of the questions or all of the questions, but it's a good jumping off point. And it's just several pages of really great beta reader questions. So those are kind of the questions that you want to be asking when you reach out to your beta readers. And then finally, just going to take a few more moments to discuss some of the best practices. So first and foremost, be grateful. Be grateful, be gracious. Most often beta readers are donating their time to read your book, to provide you feedback. This often isn't a paid service. Not that it isn't always, but more often than not, people are volunteering their time. So you want to be gracious about that. A lot of times, if I have a beta reader who is someone who's local, I'll ask if they want to meet up for coffee or a meal that I'll pay for while we discuss their feedback on my manuscript, which is also great because then there's a chance for me to ask follow-up questions. But really, it's, I kind of go off of whatever format works best for them. If it's a phone call, if it's a meeting, if it's a letter with their feedback. Also, don't rush them. I try to give my beta readers at least 2 months, and understanding that they can't drop everything to immediately read this. So try to give them plenty of time. And then, as I kind of mentioned earlier for the questions, don't ask for editing. That don't treat them like an editor. You're not paying them to be an editor. Plus, you're going to be wanting to make some of these big picture changes before you go into kind of the more granular editing. I will say some of my beta readers want to go above and beyond. They want to provide that editorial feedback. They want to let me know if they see grammar or spelling errors. And if they do, great. I'm never going to say no to that. I'm going to be thankful for it. But at the same time, I definitely don't require it. I don't ask for it. And then finally, if your beta reader is also a writer, think about being reciprocal. A lot of times it'll be kind of a swap. I beta read for you, you beta read for me. So that way, it's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship. So here are kind of at a high level, some tips and tricks about finding and working with beta readers. So I hope you've found that helpful. Once again, my name is Brandie June, and this has been How to Work with Beta Readers.